Sharon Keller, the presiding judge of the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals.
Why can't Let me just welcome somebody that combat line.
Good morning and thank you. Mike Thompson has asked me to call this meeting to order, so let's go ahead and get started. I am fortunate to work here in Austin. As Suzanne said, I'm the presiding judge of the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. I want to welcome you to Texas and to Austin. I hope you get a chance to see a little bit of the city outside of the hotel. There are a lot of things within easy walking distance, and the weather's nice, so please try and get out a little bit. I want to take a moment to explain the court system in Texas. Unlike most other states, Texas has two courts of last resort. The Supreme Court, which handles appeals in civil cases, and my court, the Court of Criminal Appeals, which handles appeals in criminal cases. One of the gems of the Justice Center is right here in Austin. One of their offices is here, and it's led by Dr. Tony Fabello. Dr. Fabello is the Director of Research for the Justice Center, and he and his staff do a fantastic job. And you will hear more about what they do later, but what they do, the work that they do is really central to the success of the Justice Center, and we're very lucky to have him. So let me introduce my friend and colleague, Nathan Hecht. Chief Justice Hecht has been elected to the Supreme Court of Texas 6 times. He's a very popular guy, and he became Chief Justice in 2014. He is the longest-serving member of the Supreme Court in Texas history, and he is the senior appellate judge in active service here in Texas. He spends a good deal of his time and effort trying to make sure that Texas citizens with limited means have access to basic civil legal services. Chief Justice Hecht holds a BA degree with honors in philosophy from Yale University and a JD degree cum laude from the SMU School of Law, where he was a Hatton W. Sumner Scholar. He clerked for Judge Roger Robb on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, and he was a lieutenant in the United States Navy Reserve Judge Advocate General Corps. Thank you all for being here today, and now please help me welcome Chief Justice Nathan Hecht.
Thank you, Sharon, and welcome to Texas. Welcome to Austin, the 11th largest city in the United States, 4th largest in Texas, and the 2nd largest capital in the country. Its motto is "Keep Austin Weird," and in the 30 years I've lived here, I found that it has not had any trouble living up to that motto. The Capitol is just down the street, built in 1888, and it's 20 feet taller than the United States Capitol, which we're quite proud of. It's a little shorter than Louisiana. We're not so proud of that, but you should check it out. The pink granite is a beautiful structure, and as I say, it's just down the street a couple of blocks. It's fitting that the Justice Center should convene this 50-state forum here in Texas. In 2011, the Supreme Court of Texas hosted the release of a school discipline study, Breaking Schools Rules. And then 2 years later, the court hosted the release of the Justice Center's report, on School Discipline Consensus. And then just last January, the court again hosted the release of the Closer to Home report that you're going to be working with here today and tomorrow. And so we feel like that we have a very close interest in the work of CSG and the Justice Center, particularly on juvenile justice, and are pleased that you're able to be here. We have among our team members from the governor's office and a district judge from San Antonio, and so we're quite interested in the work that you're going to be doing here. In the years since 2007, the Texas legislature has been very active in judicial justice reforms. They have passed legislation reducing ticketing, reducing the number of youth who are incarcerated, providing more resources to juvenile courts and probation departments, reforming truancy laws, that was in the last session, and treating justice-involved youth closer to home, the issue that you'll be focusing on here. These efforts have been successful. And I was just visiting with Senator Whitmire this morning about the truancy work that we did in the last session, and we think that it is being well received throughout our state. Why were these efforts as successful as they were? Well, for one thing, of course, the dedication and commitment of the people who have worked on them, both in the courts and in the legislature and the governor's office. But in addition to that, they were successful because we were supported by facts and analysis from the Justice Center reports. There's just no substitute for facts. And when you go to people, not just with proposals and opinions, but with data that show changes that can produce results, then you're much more likely to meet with success. So we attribute much of that to the work of the Council of State Governments and the Justice Center, and we look forward to the product that's coming out of here. Now, I'll introduce John Whitmire, Texas State Senator. There has been no one in the Senate or in the legislature who has worked harder on these issues than John. He's been in the legislature since before I graduated law school. He started when he was 6. He's been 33 years in the Senate, was 10 years in the House. He's now the Dean of the Senate. He knows a lot. He's deeply committed. He's very effective as an advocate and as a legislator. And as I say, no one in Texas government has been a stronger, more effective champion of juvenile justice reform than John Whitmire.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Heck. It sure helps when you have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court as a partner in your efforts, and certainly the presiding officer of the Court of Criminal Appeals. It also helps when I can look out and see such a diverse group of stakeholders, people that are the practitioners that make your system work. And I want to thank you. You probably don't get thanked enough, and I wish time would allow me to meet and listen to each one of your best practices, because quite frankly, a lot of what I do is stolen from people like you that have shown the way in your jurisdiction. We've come a long ways, but certainly I think we would all agree, Michael, that we've got a long ways to go. And that's the purpose in us meeting here today. Tony Fabello, who I've worked with for almost 30 years now, gave me my instructions, which he likes to do. Whitmire, you're just supposed to invite everyone today. That's your role. You'll have an opportunity to talk about substance later this morning. Well, Tony, I'm sorry, you don't get your way this morning. It would be a horrible waste of your time and my time for me to stand up and invite you to the great state of Texas. And I was not here in 1888 when they opened the Capitol, but I was damn close to it. I'll be real brief this morning because we are going to really drill down on some important subjects later on. My message would be to all of us to go back home and ask our school administrators, our probation, our law enforcement, everyone involved, to just try a little common sense. It is amazing how often that I meet with the school district officials or judges, and I see what they're doing. And you know, if you got a young lady that's not going to school, and you go to her home and find out she's 14 and pregnant, and someone has written her a ticket for being a truant. I mean, grown-ups have written her a ticket for being truant, and you find out she just doesn't have any maternity clothes. That's the kind of real issues in the face of the problem. So let me just close before I sit down. I read a paper, as you do, and I shake my head. What's in the news? You know, this weekend, my hometown paper, the Chronicle in Houston, 4th largest city, and then I read the New York Times. A small Colorado town. Sexting scandal brings tiny town unfamiliar attention. Now, I would agree that sexting by teenagers and high school students is wrong. They need to learn from it. But did you really have to cancel the football game that Friday night? Do you have to have 100 kids be suspended and go home? And we all know out-of-school suspensions, more times than not, doesn't lead to anything except you get behind and you associate with those that you probably shouldn't be. So I don't know how bad it was. I don't know the details, and I don't want you to leave here and say, well, Whitmire endorsed sexting. Consenting adults can do what the hell they want to do. But by the way, high school students shouldn't. But one last example. In Duncanville, Texas, outside of Dallas last year, I heard and started getting calls. They brought 100 kids to the auditorium and dismissed them because they decided they were going to crack down on the dress code that day. You couldn't wear sleeveless jerseys. You couldn't not have a belt on. So 100 kids were sent home for 3 days. I called the superintendent and I said, you know, what is going on up there? I mean, well, Senator, we like accountability in Duncanville. And I said, had you ever thought about taking all 100 of the students to the gymnasium for the day? Royce West is one of our African-American most impressive state senators out of Dallas. He ought to be playing for the Cowboys. He's such a forceful, large, physical person. I said, why don't you let Royce West talk to the 100 students about how people form opinion, how your success in life might be how you dress and how you show up for work or school. Just a little common sense would go a long ways. Thank you for allowing me to speak.